Okay, so we're going to continue from where we left off last on here, which was creating an isometric. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to kind of build the isometric up, and I have all of my dimensions here. And I'm going to start with the base layer, and I'm going to kind of work up, and then at the end of it, we should be able to trim it out. The most trickiest part that you're going to find is when you create isometrics. It's going to typically be the fillet, and it's mainly because the fillet command does not work. So let's go ahead and start setting up AutoCAD to get it into that isometric profile first. The way we're going to do that is you have an icon here that will automatically set AutoCAD to an iso draft. So once I click this icon, you should see your cursor change. Remember, you can toggle through with F5, or I can click the fly up next to it, and then I can pick which ISO plane I want to be on. In this case, I'm going to start off on the ISO plane top. And then the next thing I'm going to do is make sure that my ortho is on. Okay, so now we know that the entire length of this bottom line is 130 and the width is 60. So I'm going to start off by creating a rectangle that looks like that. Come back to the Home tab here, start with a line, and this is going to shoot off a little bit, so click here. I'm going to come down this direction, 130. I'm going to go up this direction, 60, back, 130, and then C to close it. Alright, so now I have my base going created. I'm going to go ahead and put my arc that's located here. Now remember, we have to create those with ISO circles. The only way that I'm going to get this command to work is I have to physically type in the ellipse command. Shortcut for it is just going to be EL. Enter. Now you can see on my command line I get the option for ISO circle. I'm going to go ahead and pick the center of my ISO circle. So click this midpoint and then click this endpoint. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a line going from this midpoint going out this direction. Now I would have tried to move that through any other means, but I need to get this intersection to be where that midpoint is at. And this is the only way I can pull it off and do it. If I try to grab any one of these quadrants, it won't move it in the right direction or in the right location. So let's go ahead and move this circle. And remember that it's an ISO circle from this intersection to this endpoint. Go ahead and get rid of a couple of lines here. I can delete these two lines. And then I can use the trim command. So remember, I can pre-select with the trim, but all of these that are touching, so there's no need to pre-select any cutting edges. So I'm just going to use trim. Trim off the parts I don't want. Okay. So now I got this done. I'm going to copy all of this up to the height that I need, which is going to be 15. So let's go to copy. Select these lines, pick a base point, and now you're going to see that you are constricted where you can't move this going up. So I have to go and change my ISO plane, and I'm going to use ISO left. And now when I come up, I'm going to type in a distance of 15. Now I probably should have put the circle that's located on the center of that, and I think I'll do that now. So let's go ahead and create another ellipse. So the first thing I'm going to do is go back to ISO top. And then let's make sure we know our radius or diameter. In this case, it's 22 is our diameter. I have to type in EL. Enter. The ISO circle. I'm going to go to this center. And now be careful, because if you actually run your cursor across, you're going to see that both of these centers come up. And if you do have that situation, go ahead and click on the bottom one. And now it's asking me for a radius, so I have to come down on my command line, select diameter, and then type in 22. Let's go ahead and copy that ISO circle that I created. And I'm just going to use these two base points. I'm going to click that endpoint and that endpoint. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch back now to our ISO left. And I'm going to draw a line connecting this endpoint Escape, and then do the same. And on this side, as long as you got your quadrant set, you should be able to go to the quadrant to quadrant to go ahead and put your vanishing edge in. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish trimming out these circles and things of that nature, just so we can get all of this looking somewhat right, and then we'll build off of this and continue and make the next part. So let's go ahead and trim, and remember with this circle here at the bottom, I'm going to trim off these inside points. And then I'm going to trim off this little point here and here. If I want to keep going, I'll just go ahead and trim these off. Alright, so now we have the bottom base of that created. So the next thing I need to do is work from this point going up. And you can see that that is 50 going up, so that means that that distance from here should be 35. And I'm getting that from the 50 minus the 15 to give me 35 is the total length of that. And this width and length is 60 by 60. So we've already created this line here going 60 that direction. I'm going to go ahead and select it. Use the copy command. Pick a base point here. I'm just going to come forward a distance of 60. Escape. Now I'm going to copy these two lines up at a height of 35. So I'll go copy. Select these two lines. And if I want to save myself, I guess, from creating those other lines, I guess I'll go ahead and copy these two lines as well with it. Go ahead and hit enter to go to the next step here. Click a base point. I'm going to go up. And remember that height should be 35. Okay. So now we have this somewhat created. I'll go ahead and connect some lines here. I'm just going to draw a line going from this back point to here. I'll draw another one from this intersection to that end point. Draw a line from this end point going up to here. And then with this back one, we're just going to use the extend command. So I'm going to go to, I want to use extend. First, I'm going to tell it where to go before I invoke that command. What I mean by that is if I select this, that means that that's going to be the extension edge or the boundary edge that it needs to go to. So when I use the extend command, that's already selected. So when I select this line, it's going to automatically jump up to there. Okay? Let's go ahead and use the trim and trim off these front parts. Once again, if you don't feel like clicking through all of these, I'm going to escape out of that command. I could pre-select this line, go to trim, and now you're going to see that that line will trim right back to it. Alright, let's get a little bit more information from our drawing. So we know that the length here between these two are 13, and they're going to be 15 wide. So, looking at it this direction, I'm going to go to copy, select this line, enter. And I can't use the offset command. It would be nice if I could use it, but when I'm using isometrics, I do have to copy it. I'm going to copy. I'm picking a base point out here since it's a distance, and I'm going to aim this direction. I'm going to type in 13. I'll do the exact same thing again on this line, so I'm going to copy this line, base point going this direction, 13. Let's go 15 the other direction, but you'll notice that my cursor is in the ISO left, so I can only move left and right. I'm just going to switch it back to ISO top. Go back to the copy command, select this line, pick a base point, I'm going this direction, 15, escape out of that command, and then do it again. So I'm going to go to copy, select this line, enter, pick a base point, come down this direction, 15. Okay, so let's go ahead and clean this up now. I want to go ahead and trim all of this stuff out, and that way I'm just left with the 4 kind of cubes to put up here along the top. So I'm just going to pre-select the lines that I want to cut to. Let's go to trim. And what that's going to let me do is trim out between here and here and here. Okay? Let's go ahead and escape out of this. Alright, so looking along this edge, we see that this is 25. So if I subtract the 25 from the 50, that should leave me a distance of 25 going down. Let's go ahead and go to the copy command. I'm going to select these two lines. Enter. Once again, I'm in the isometric top. I'm just going to switch over to isometric left. Pick a base point. Come down a distance of 25. Escape out of this. And now you're going to see that I need to create a line going straight down here. So I'm going to use the line command. Come from this end point, come straight down, and it's okay to go past it. I'm going to do the exact same thing along here. Right along this back edge. And this one we really won't see, but I'm going to go ahead and create it. Okay, so once again, now I need to go ahead and trim these to make them match. So I'm going to select these two lines and this one. Do the exact same thing on the other side. These two lines and this one. And once again, I am pre-selecting these just so they'll be my cutting edges. Let's go to trim. And we're going to take away these portions. Same thing on this side. And now that we have a little bit more detail, I just escaped out of the trim command. I need to trim off these portions in between here. But I'm going to still save that for after I go ahead and create this line. Alright, so I'm looking straight ahead, and now I see that this line is 30 from the bottom. Remember that the top is 50, so I have to come down a distance of 20. Let's go ahead and go back to the copy command. Select these two lines. Pick a base point, come down a distance of 20. Kind of like what we did before here. I'm going to create a line going from this end point coming down. Let me undo that. You see it snapped to my O-snap, one of my running O-snaps. And I'm going to come down here. And I'll do the same on the back side of here. And keep in mind, I know I won't see it, but I will see a portion of that. Okay, so now I have most of what I need to complete this. This time I'm not going to do any pre-selecting, as I kind of going to step through most of these and kind of move them to where I can see it. But before I do that, I'm just going to move this on the outside of the title block since I got most of what I needed created. So let's go ahead and move, and I'm going to put a window around this one. And I'm just going to move it up. Alright. So now let's go ahead and finish out what we have created. Let's go to the trim command. Starting here. I know that this line and this one are going to create that L shape. Kind of walking back here, I see between here. It's going to create that shape. So that's going to allow me to go ahead and get rid of this part in the middle. I know I have some lines that come down here, but I'll go ahead and create those here in a second. Let's take a look at here. Let's do the same thing. So we know that it intersects here. And on the front end, this does here. Let's go ahead and trim out between here. Let's go ahead and get the back part here. And then we're going to trim out these pieces between here. Alright, so now I'm going to start eliminating some confusion here once I go ahead and put these last lines on here. I know that all of these lines are going to come down and touch a certain surface. Alright, I can see that on this line it's going to come down and intersect right down to this bottom line. What I mean by that is if I draw a line going straight down here, where is it going to stop at? It's actually going to stop when I trim going to this location. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of these back lines, so I'm just going to trim these off until it gets to there. I'm going to do the same on here. I'm just going to trim this portion out between here, and now you can kind of see it starting to take a little bit more shape. Let's go ahead and create a line going straight across here. Now we can see where that's at. I'm just going to make sure I put this in the right location just by copying this line from this endpoint to here. Okay, so I can see that this line actually kind of extends down a little bit more to get to that surface. I'm just going to extend this line down here. Okay, and now that I just thought about it, kind of made a little mistake on that one. Actually, that line does stay exactly where it was. So I'm just going to undo back. Then I'll get rid of that line. Actually, that does come across here, and I'm going to see that here when I copy these lines over and some other things start to happen. Let's go ahead and copy these three lines. And let's go from this endpoint. I'm just going to copy it to this endpoint and also to this one. Now, I am going to have a little bit of double line, and I'll show you a command that's going to help you get rid of that. Alright, now I can start seeing things a little bit more clearly. Just going to connect the line going right across to here. And we're going to start erasing some lines, and things are going to really become clear here in a second. Use the trim command next. I'm going to trim off this portion, even this little bitty line here. I'm going to get rid of all this on the back side. I'm going to kind of walk this line back, and we don't need to see that at all. Let's go ahead and get rid of this line here, this one, and this one. And we're going to do the same on this front side. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this one, and that one. Okay. Now I intentionally left this line, so I'm going to go ahead and put the fillets on here, and then we should have this one done. Remember that there is no fillet command when we're creating isometrics. So we have to create an ellipse that goes on here, and then we're going to place it where it needs to be. So I'm going to go and check the radius of that, and I do remember that it is 10. I'm going to type in EL, enter. And I'm going to pick this as my base point. I'm sorry, escape, EL, enter. I have to select ISO circle. I'll select this as my endpoint. And now it's asking me for a radius. Remember that radius below is set to 10. And then I'm going to move this in 2 steps. So I'm going to move, select this circle, enter. Pick a base point here, and I need to go this direction, a distance of 10, since that is the radius. Then we're going to move, select that same circle again, enter. Pick a base point, this time go up a distance of 10. Let's go ahead and copy this circle. And I'm going to use this endpoint. I'm going to place it on that endpoint. Okay, so let's go ahead and erase this line, or better yet, go ahead and keep it, and we're going to come back and I'll show you how we can use that line to kind of show a little bit more detail in there. Let's go to trim, and let's just kind of walk our circle around, and we're going to do the same on this side. I can get rid of this line altogether, and I'm going to trim this portion up. I'm going to do the same on this side. and then escape. Let's go to copy, select this line, enter. I'm going to go from this endpoint. And I'm going to place it on this endpoint, and then I'll place it again on this endpoint. Go ahead and delete that line now. And now we have our ellipse created. Our isometric created. Let's go ahead and place it on the inside of our drawing here. So I'm going to move this object, pick a base point somewhere out here. And now I'm going to give myself a little bit more freedom by turning the ortho off. Now I'm going to kind of place this to where it's really not interfering with anything. I'm just going to zoom the extents. Now remember that an isometric is nothing more than a representation of what you have. So if you're not having trouble putting this in here without it touching, you can always scale these down. What I mean by that is if I want to make this a little bit smaller, I can do that. Just make sure you select all of the objects here. Pick a base point, and let's say 0.1875. I'm sorry, 0.875. You're going to see that that will shrink a little bit. And the command I just used was the scale command. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed doing isometrics, and it's kind of a thing of the past that you don't see especially in 2D AutoCAD anymore because of the invention of 3D. And I will show you how to create this one on my part 3 video of this one in AutoCAD 3D. Just to be sure that you know how to get this out of isometric is exact same step we did in the beginning here. Just by selecting this button, you can see your cursor will come back. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one when I create this part in 3D.